I started drinking very heavily 26 years ago. My daughter died. She was 10 weeks pregnant. I only lived 2 days, and I was in intensive care, and so was she. My husband had been told at the time to expect me to die and her to live. Unfortunately, it was the other way around. And I drank. I started to drink. My company didn't know how to deal with me. I was given full maternity leave, and my day would consist of a bottle of vodka and then drinking in the evening. It was my way of coping with my grief at the time, and my way of shutting everything out. Time went on, I went back to work, but my husband, who is now my ex-husband, blamed me for the death of our daughter, which was a very hard thing to take. I wasn't an all-day drinker then. I was drinking heavily in the evenings because it blotted the pain away. It enabled me to sleep over time. The marriage became violent at times with the blame. We were living in Derbyshire at the time, and we eventually moved back down to Cambridgeshire. I would hold a job down, still drinking heavily in the evenings and at weekends, never able to get enough, never able to stop the pain. I eventually had a son who's now 24, I'm very proud of him, but I suffered quite severe postnatal depression and had 6 weeks in hospital because I didn't want to deal with him. Eventually bonded with him and moved back to Cambridgeshire again, and sort of learnt to deal with, I was a stay-at-home mum. We moved to a different area, I knew nobody, and drink became my friend. Unbeknownst to me, I was becoming addicted. Obviously with hindsight now and everything I've learned, I realise that. So I just carried on as a mum and as a wife. There was violence at times in the relationship. I became to see it as the norm, as I became to see my drinking as the norm.
And have you learned how to handle pain? Have you found a new way to deal with difficulties in life?
I now accept the past. If I move it forward to 18 months ago, I discovered my husband having an affair with my best friend. He kicked me out of the house, and I still to this day live with my parents, but I went on a very, very dark journey downward. I had to blot out the pain. I didn't know how to cope, and I drank. I was functioning. I did hold down a job, but then by Christmas last year it all got too much, and unfortunately I overdosed a year ago.
On alcohol?
And tablets, yes. That was my second one. I overdosed in November and I overdosed in December. Waking up with the fear of, well, you can't even do that right. What is there left in life? My son's actually in the Navy, so he's away a lot of the time. He still lives with his father, which caused me again pain. It got to the point where I was drinking a bottle of vodka a day, plus anything else I could get my hands on. There was deceit, there was lies, I was stealing money off my parents. My mum and my son wanted me to go to rehab, I didn't want to go. And I actually got to the point of desperation in March where I phoned CGL and said, I need a detox.
What do you think happened in your brain that switched from not wanting to go when they tried to get you to you yourself bringing up and deciding?
I woke up one morning, I looked at the bottle, I couldn't get out of bed without a drink. I really had gone to the lowest point I believe I've ever been in my life. The realisation that this wasn't a life, it was an existence. It was purely get up, wake up, drink, pass out.
So you had a moment of clarity where you could see what it was really like.
Yes,
yeah.
And I could see I was losing my son. He didn't want to be around me. I have since found out that was the truth. He was extremely scared.
How old was he then?
He was 23 then. I'm 50 next year, and both my son and my mother were planning my funeral, not my 50th birthday. That's to the point of they were at despair. I can see a lot more of the pain I've inflicted on the family now with a clear head. They've lived my addiction with me, and I think families really do suffer because they want the best, they want you better, but they also don't have an understanding of addiction.
Can you explain what it's like a little bit? Just a little slice of what addiction's like to someone who isn't in that world?
Addiction for me was the drink. I would shake, I would sweat, dreadful mood swings. Everything revolved around getting a drink. I would do anything. Very, very deceitful life, a very lonely life, very despairing.
It sounds terrible. Wasn't it enjoyable? Didn't you like the feeling of being drunk, or didn't it give you something that you enjoyed?
Not at all. My body was crying out for alcohol. I would be in physical pain if I didn't have a drink.
So you weren't drinking to make yourself feel good, you were drinking to stop the bad feelings, or to at least minimise some of the bad feelings of not having the fix.
Absolutely. I'd gone beyond being a social drinker. If I went out, I'd have to have that extra drink. I'd never taste it, it would go down, it would hit the spot. But it was taking more and more alcohol to hit the spot. It became a necessity. And if anyone who doesn't drink would look at that and think that's shocking. This was my 4th detox this year, and what frightened me as time went on was how quickly I became addicted again after each detox. But those detoxes I wasn't ready for. I was doing to please everybody in my life. Whereas this time I got to the point, I'm just pouring it down my throat to survive. And surely there's got to be more to life than this. And I could start to see that I was causing more pain to everybody else that I love. But love wasn't in my life. I didn't love myself, let alone anybody else.
I mean, you said that when you were critically ill or critically injured from your first pregnancy, that everyone said that your child would live and you would die, but you said, I just heard you say, unfortunately, it was me who lived. Do you still, do you feel better about yourself with recovery? Do you still struggle with whether you're lovable and whether you're loving?
Yes, I do struggle. I do feel in myself lonely. But I now know what to do. I now need to get out, stop the isolation, which is the main thing with drinking, is the isolation. I no longer went out. I drank in my room. Even self-care, having a shower was an issue. I'd be happy to stay in bed all day, not see anybody. And that's depression, anxiety would creep in.
Yeah. So mental health, what's your experience of mental health through all this? Because grief is just a natural thing that happens when we suffer extreme loss. So I don't know whether that's considered a mental health situation, but what's your view of your mental health?
I believe I've always had a mental health problem, whether that is from the death of my daughter, from the abuse, both physical and mental. I became the feeling of worthlessness. I was a wife, a mother. I no longer was Michelle. I was just existing with the alcohol. I didn't have a role in life. Mentally, I was made to feel worthless, useless. I had no opinion. I did what anyone told me to. So I believe I progressed to the fact that I didn't like myself, didn't love myself, couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I'm sorry if I had to laugh. I do apologise.
No, go for it. This is real. And do you think that's evolving? Do you feel like your mental health is improved with sobriety, or is it just maintaining, the do you do your recovery that keeps you on an even keel, or do you feel like your mental health was up, does it go down?
Mental health has gone up, definitely. All the time I was drinking, I was on antidepressants. I have been since my daughter died, but with the alcohol, the antidepressants won't work. So the dosage was going up, but having no effect. And of course, alcohol is a depressant anyway. So there was no point in taking the antidepressants because they weren't working. Whereas now, with not drinking, the antidepressants are working.
Okay.
But I'm also doing work on my mental health. I'm much more aware. If I want to cry, I cry.
Excellent.
I don't hold it in. I'm not. The frightening thing when I became sober, when I came out of rehab, was having feelings. And there is a saying in recovery, the good thing is you get your feelings back, but the bad thing is you do get your feelings back. It's learning to acknowledge them, deal with them, let them be. I have extremely good days, and I have more good days than I have bad days. And a bad day might just be half a day, because I'm aware of what I'm thinking. I do a lot of work through NA on my 12-step program.
NA, Narcotics Anonymous.
Narcotics Anonymous,
which is free.
It's free. I attend the groups regularly. At present, I do 3 groups a week. That is totally voluntary. I've met a different group of people, all with the same goal, all from different backgrounds, all different personalities.
And do you feel accepted there, or is it a place you have to kind of, do you have to work your way in before you're accepted? Does it take time to fit in?
No, I have never met a group of people that have been more welcoming. It's very, very hard when you come out of rehab, because suddenly, oh, okay, I know I will never take another drink again in my life because of my personality. I'm scared of ever drinking again because I don't want to go back to. In 7 months, I can see myself now. I'm a stronger person, and I don't need alcohol. I'm able to go out confidently. I would never come out of the house on my own. I would never catch a bus. Locally I go to Cambridge shopping on my own. I come here to CGL. I'm now a peer mentor on a volunteer basis.
So what does that mean? What do you actually spend your time doing?
I'm training at the moment, so I do once a week. I do a training course, but I also co-facilitate, which is assist the workers here in the groups. Okay,
so what's one of the things that you tell us, explain to us, describe to us what it's like? You're in a room and there's some people who are service users who are wanting some help for their drugs and alcohol. What do you actually find yourself doing?
The group I assist with at the moment is the pre-rehab group. So it's service users who are waiting for or who have funding and ready to attend a rehab. So they are given the tool.
Okay, because you've been to rehab, you can talk to them about it.
Yes, I give them my experience, and I can see myself in them, sitting there, being told about a rehab, being told what to expect, making plans for when you've come out of the rehab. And I can see how disbelieving they are. So my role is to talk about my story, explain how I felt, give them the encouragement and the support. Whereas I've come in this morning and there's a group here for the Breakfast Club, which is just to drop in, have a cup of tea, coffee, a bit of toast, see people on a daily basis and sit and talk to. Just how was your weekend? And one has a problem with Christmas. And talk to her and talk about how family is becoming a problem for her with her going into rehab. Just explaining, if I can give them my problems I faced and explain how I've got through them, just giving them courage, support. But self-belief is a big thing when you're an addict.
Yeah.
You have none. You don't believe you can do this. If I can sit there and just listen. That is the hardest thing. Families and loved ones who haven't had an addiction do not understand. My mum actually found CGL very helpful as a parent and carer support group once a month. And she could come and sit and talk. and have something explained, but also talk to other parents who are suffering and get some more understanding how to support the addict.
Yeah. We can learn from people who've been through it
Very
in a
much.
way that we might not learn from someone who's studied in a book or...
A book's well and good. I've read
Yeah.
plenty of books, and I still do. I'm always learning. The most important lesson I've learned this year was addiction being called a disease. I'd never heard that before, and that helped me massively. It was a label, yes, a label that I'm actually proud of now, because I've come through, and I want to give back now to help. But having been told, yes, addiction is a disease.
Have you got an experience of stigma of addiction? Have you heard people talk about addiction or addicts in a way that is ignorant or judgmental?
Very much so. You see people in the local pub who are regular drinkers, but are quite happy to leave it when they leave the pub, whereas I wouldn't. I would have to carry on drinking, being told, oh, just leave it, give it up. Not understand that an addiction means you cannot stop. You physically cannot stop, because if you stop drinking the amount I was drinking, that it can lead to death, because you can't stop. You have to wean it down.
Your body's become dependent on the alcohol physically,
Yes.
and if you stop too soon or too abruptly, you could have a seizure which could lead to death.
Yes.
So that's one of the most important lessons that I have heard regarding alcohol recovery, is that if somebody wants to stop, they should be very careful to ease off if they are physically dependent.
Most
They
definitely.
can stop.
Seek help, seek advice.
Yeah.
Don't just give up. Lazy is a stigma. You're lazy, you don't want to work, you're more than happy just to sit there with a bottle. Nobody ever wanted to know why I drank. They thought I was just a monster. A greedy person, just wanting more all the time. Lazy, selfish.
In reality, you know how it looks selfish, and you know how it hurts the people you love, and you know all the things that people say that are judging. And if anything, we feel in ourselves as well. We're sitting there judging ourselves. We're sitting there saying, why don't you stop? Why don't you, why are you hurting the people you love? And we're feeling the same confusion and despair that other people are feeling toward us, except we're the ones that are doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's the fear of the unknown. That's why a pre-rehab group obviously is vital. I've got so many tools now in my toolbox. I'm extremely lucky, but I have worked hard because I really want this. I want recovery. But making that first phone call and saying, actually, I can't help myself anymore, is very, very difficult. And the times you pick up the phone asking for help it's so hard, because you're admitting defeat. Then there's more self-loathing. And self-loathing is a huge part of addiction. You hate what you're doing. You don't want to wake up. You want a magic pill, a magic wand.
So in addiction, is there a magic pill? Is there, if I was a diabetic, I could take some insulin or whatever to manage my diabetes. What do you take to manage addiction? What's the cure? What's the easy, quick, 5-second painless cure of alcoholism?
The easy way is not to start in the first place, but the easy part for me was going into rehab. Somebody else took that over. I was medicated. That was it. I had 2 weeks on medication, and
which would ease the withdrawal symptoms
it
from
totally
alcohol.
eased, yes. And you would start on an extremely high dose and then wean it down over the 2-week period. So yes, that's taken the alcohol out of my life. Then coming home, that's when the hard work starts.
Okay, so what's the magic pill then? What's the easy, painless solution?
The easy one is not to pick another drink up, or drug, whatever. I knew I had to put the hard work in, and I was prepared for that. So engage with CGL, engage with a mutual aid group such as Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, any of those, and learning to speak up, learning to reach out and say, actually today I'm struggling, and engage with help that's offered. I have cut myself off from friends who are drinkers. I'm not ready yet to be in that with them. I do still go to the pub. In fact, yesterday my son and I went out.
You just had one drink?
I had a Diet Coke.
Okay.
That's all I have. He had a pint. We're sitting having a conversation.
Someone will offer you a drink, someone will try to get you to have a drink?
No.
No.
He's very, very protective.
Okay, so the people you go to the pub with are only people who understand
Only
your
that's
situation.
why I'm still friends with the friends. The case is I won't be coming to the pub with you. They'll come round to me for a coffee, or we'll meet up in town for a coffee. Those are I make my rules now. I've got my boundaries.
And some of those same people who would have judged you and you would have felt the stigma and the incorrect judgments, said it's a lazy or whatever. Do you still relate to any of those people, or any of the people who you're friends with, who you have coffee with but you don't see at the pub, or any of those people who didn't understand addiction, and are you working that out with them, or just letting them think what they think? And
yeah, I let them think what they want to think. My ex-husband's a perfect example. Oh well, I hope she sticks to it. Well, that's none of your business, I'm afraid, anymore. This is me now, and I'm doing it for me. People can think what they want to think. I know what I'm doing. It's education, and some people don't want to be educated. Whether that's a negative thought, I don't know. To me, I was very unsure of this at first, but I was told you have to put yourself, I was advised, it was suggested to me, put yourself first in recovery. It's not being selfish.
it sounds selfish, doesn't it?
It does.
Someone's going to think that's what it is from the outside.
Yeah. I did at first. I read it out. Well, I've always been a people pleaser. I still am a people pleaser. I like to see everybody else happy. But I've come to the knowledge that I have to put myself. For an example, I wouldn't go to a house party around someone's house at Christmas coming up, because I would be aware there'd be drink around there. Someone would maybe spike a drink. I don't know. So I don't put myself in a situation. So if that's selfish, well, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I put myself first because this is important. It's me.
Taking care of yourself.
Yes, self-care.
I think that one way of looking at addiction is self-destruction.
Yes.
It's, drinking until your liver gives out, or it's drinking until your job is gone, until your family is left you, drinking until you lose your home. It's all different forms of destruction, and that's to me the same with alcohol or drugs or any other addiction. And so the cure involves the opposite of that, which is, instead of destroying ourselves, taking care of ourselves. So when you say you're putting yourself first, you're basically doing what you need to do to take care of yourself.
Exactly. Self-care becomes a vital part, whereas I'd lost that. Now I pride myself in getting up early, not 6 o'clock in the morning, for example, but I get up, I have a plan for the day. I like structure. So I'll get up, shower, put my makeup on, clean clothes. It might sound very small, but to a recovering alcoholic, that is very large. That is a large part of the day. You think, I'm getting up, whereas before I'd stay in bed. If I'm not going out that day, I will still go out for a walk around the block. Give me time, thinking time. And if I can't solve something, I'm not frightened of reaching out now. It's not admitting defeat. It's saying I'm struggling. And it is hard. I can't lie, it's not.
So you were a very self-sufficient person. You tried to do everything on your own before?
Very much so, because there was no support for me from the one person, my ex-husband, that I thought was there. And now, yes, I am on my own, but I'm not lonely. I'm not lonely at all. the one thing that really shines from my recovery is my son said to me, "I've got my mum back." And that absolutely means the world. To see it a few weeks ago, we were out and I laughed. And I came home with a stomachache from laughing that much. Tears down the face with joy. And that is priceless.
Yeah, you appreciate such simple things because of how dire they were before,
yes,
and how few and far between.
It may sound very strange, but when you walk down the street and look at the trees, listen to the sound of the birds, none of that matters in addiction. All that matters is your next drink. I sit and smile. Also, I've attended a CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy course, which retrains the brain.
Is that through the NHS?
No, through CGL.
Okay.
And it just retrains the brain. So, for example, I'm quite a fiery person. Learning if you drop something, well, it's not the end of the world. You can replace that. It might sound simple, but everything is a trauma when you're an addict. Everything, because it's interrupting your main goal. My alcohol was my only purpose in life. Whereas now that's gone. I'm discovering what my new purpose in life is, my new role. And I've got to say, I'm smiling now. It is so refreshing. I do think, why didn't you do it sooner? But maybe that wasn't the right time for me. It's a very hard thing to admit. And I wouldn't change anything. I change what I've done in the past. However disgusted I am with myself, I'm learning to live with that because it's who I am today.
Acceptance.
Very much so, yeah.
Because addiction maybe has a big element of avoiding and pretending and hiding and covering up things. Self-sobriety must involve a lot of facing things and accepting things.
Yes, but I take my time. I haven't done it all at once. There are things. This is where Narcotics Anonymous comes in, a 12-step program. The 12 steps, the first step is acceptance, willingness. I am powerless. I am powerless to this addiction. How can I change that? And that's, even in simple things in life, like I said, if I haven't got any plans for the day, I will take myself out for a walk. Put my headphones in, just go for a walk so that I'm not sat in the house. I occupy myself. I've taken on, sounds daft, roles in the house. I now do the ironing, do the washing, do the cooking. But I'm enjoying those things because I can see the point to it. Whereas before, everything was interrupting. Again, I'm repeating myself, but everything interrupted it.
So when you talk about the 12 steps, are you working those 12 steps?
I am. I do have a sponsor who I can go to.
And do you have to do whatever they tell you? Are they mean and horrible to you?
No.
You see, I'm asking a lot of facetious questions.
No, that's fine. Everything that is said to me is a suggestion. For example, one of them is do not get into a relationship in the first year. You are? Hang on a minute. I can see why, because I'm finding myself. If I wanted to, I could. There's nothing to stop me.
Yeah, it's just advice.
It's advice. Nothing is, you must do this. There's nothing, 12 steps are not like that.
Yeah.
You can do as much or as little. And if a major decision, don't rush into it. My first thought is never the right thought. Maybe my second and third thought. Again, it comes to talking to somebody and talking a problem out or an issue out. It's quite refreshing in a way.
So here's something I often hear people say about 12 steps, AA and things like that is, oh, well, it's religious. And I'm not religious, so I've got no interest in that God stuff.
No, it's not religious at all. I lost my faith when my daughter died. And up to this point, I've never had a faith. NA, for example, use the word God as you choose personally to accept it. We have what's called a higher power, someone who watches over you. Now that could be God. It could be the chair in the corner. It could be perhaps a relative that's died, you think's watching over you. It's a spiritual program, but you don't have to be religious. I'm not religious. I do feel things happen for a reason now, i.e. having my rehab this year. That was a reason. There was a reason there for it. I'm still getting my head around it, but there's no religion forced down your throat.
So you're an atheist?
Yes.
And you're signed up, card-carrying member of the 12-step program?
Yes, I am.
And it works for you even though you're an atheist?
Yes.
So all the people there must be atheists then?
No. There are some. We're all... There's a saying, looking for the similarities, not the differences. So the similarity is we're all recovering addicts. We may work in the city, we may work at the local pound shop, but those are the differences.
And your spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs don't get in the way of helping each other?
No.